Hi, everybody. Let's take a look at how AI decides what sources to cite. This was a topic that has come up over and over again, especially for folks in the PR space. So I want to kind of break this down and look at it, not just from a surface level, but like just enough technical depth to make it kind of feel like a badass. So let's go. First, a little bit about me. I actually started in Boston in marketing, worked for a couple of agencies there. Some of you may have heard of them, Hill Holiday, Arnold. Switched over to tech. And for the last 10 years or so, I've been in the AI field since it was originally called machine learning back in 2016 or so when that term became popular. Right now, I run a company called Spyglass. It's an AI visibility platform for PR and marketing. So, why are we here? What are we trying to learn from this? Well, we are all here because people in the world are using AI to do product research. It's a channel that is growing. 94% of B2B buyers, according to Forrester, have said they've used AI during their most recent purchase. The bigger ticket items are more likely to be AI researched versus something that's like B2C. And you see, like 1 in 3 people bought something from a vendor that was discovered in AI answer. This is increasingly a discovery channel, and we have to be aware of it. We've got to own it. For those of you in PR, you've probably seen this quote or variations on it. Earned media drives 84% of AI citations. Muckrack has trumpeted this around. I see it all over LinkedIn. You've probably seen a variation of this too. What does that mean, though? Um, when you sit down and work with either your company, if you work internally, or with a client, this kind of starts a lot of things, right? The CEO is ChatGPT or their favorite AI engine about the company. It was wrong. They didn't recommend me. And then guess what? This becomes your problem. So, what are we going to talk about here? Three things: how AI decides what content to cite, what you should do about it if you work in earned media or backlinks or anything that involves outreach, understanding where and how your brand is positioned. And we'll do a little bit on how to structure your content. Earned media is part of it, but this kind of broadly applies for AI. So, how does AI decide what content to cite? A lot of us have heard this kind of stuff. I see this stuff all the time on LinkedIn. Uh, what does trust and authority mean in AI? Can you build a brand that AI trusts? Can build authority in AI? Can you get to a point where AI loves to cite you? These are all human things. I know we talk a lot about how AI can parrot human emotions and things, but does it actually have a concept of trust, authority, and love, especially for a brand, right? So what does that mean? Is AI like some mystical oracle on a mountain that you go up to and it's, oh, great AI. What brand of bathroom cleaner will get these stubborn stains off my vanity? And AI consults its vast knowledge of brands and cleaning products and how things work. And it comes back and it says, oh, these are the best bathroom cleaners for stubborn stains. Is this how AI works? No. The dirty secret is that AI is really kind of a thin layer over traditional search. It's just doing the searches for you, reading the top results, summarizing them, extracting facts, and then giving you recommendations. This is a bit of a generalization, but it's much closer to this model than it is to an all knowing oracle that you just ask questions of and it has all of this information at its hand. Most of its recommendations, when you ask about products, are generated in real time from web sources. They're informed and summarized by the fact that it has an LLM under it, but the data that you're getting is almost certainly for these types of queries coming from web sources, which is good because it means you can influence it. So let's get a little deeper into how that process actually works. Um, we're not the only one to do this, but we've mapped this into roughly 8 gates. Your content needs to pass all of these gates to be recommended in the answer, not just to be cited, but actually used as a source and your content actually given to the user by the AI. No need to look at the details here. We're going to look at each individual one, but this is kind of a conceptual map of what these look like. First gate, does this query trigger a search? Who was the president in 1953? AI's got that in his training data. Going to just give that to you. You're not going to do a web search. Doesn't have it. By the time you listen to this, what country won the World Cup in 2026 will also probably be answered from training data as opposed to the web. Training data is usually a few months to potentially up to a year behind reality. So the more recent the data is that you need, the more likely it is to trigger a search. So questions about the brand, might be a trigger search. They might be coming from trained data. You should audit what the model itself knows about your company in addition to this other process. That's a separate topic, something that you should do here. We're looking here at the ones that actually trigger a web search. Number two, all AI models, but most of them have pipelines. It will use these as a kind of a quick pass, like what is the best source, the best workflow to answer this. Doesn't have to be just one, however. In some cases, you might have shopping and news related. It can blend these, but is typically going to pick one primary one. I've listed 3 here: shopping, news, research, maps, local, weather. Each one of these kind of triggers a different workflow. If you've used ChatGPT or Claude or something, you've probably seen this in action. The output response is slightly different depending on the type of question that you pose to it. We, on this presentation, are mostly interested in the research side, so that's what we're going to focus here. The others are also fascinating in their own right. If you're on the B2C side, you really care about the shopping pipeline. Third gate, does this, is there a fan out query? So a fan out query is the underlying web search that the AI model runs when it is looking for information from the web to summarize. It doesn't have to produce just one. We have seen this do as many as 30 for deep research. You've probably seen something like this if you've looked at the web page when Claude or ChatGPT is answering a question. It'll say something like thinking, searching the web, or something like that. Behind the scenes, it's running one or more web searches. So knowing what these web searches are can help you understand what content's likely to be cited, what type of information, and also how to optimize your content for this particular search. There is a plugin. This is not ours, but you're going to look for this is baked into Google Chrome, where you can put it in there. And as long as you have an active ChatGPT, this one's specifically focused on ChatGPT. If you have an active account, it doesn't have to be logged in. This will record the prompt and all of the fan outs for you. These are super helpful because, again, this stage is important kind of for the next stage, which is you have to be in the search results for the fan out in order to be cited. So here I've got the prompt that I ran, one of the best PR firms in Greater Worcester, Mass. And you can see it slightly changed the prompt here to make this. This is the fan out that it ran here. It expanded the word PR firms into public relations agencies. It's smart enough to do that. But this is the fan out that it runs. So definitely on that last one, that tool is free. It's great. I use it all the time in my own little research. So definitely worth your time. Next gate, the search engine rank position filter. So we have observed for those fan out queries, we have observed ChatGPT citing content as low as about position 30. So at beyond 30, it gets vanishingly small. Um, I will say it doesn't just pick the first search result. That is an important factor here. The position one in the underlying search results gets about 44% of the citations, which is still by far the most cited, but it is still less than half. So if you are not the top ranking for that search, you still have an opportunity to be cited. However, if you're not in roughly the top 30 results, you are out. So this is an immediate gate. You're either in it or out. If your content is out, there's no chance of being cited, which means there's no chance your brand is mentioned from that source. Gate five, can the AI model fetch and chunk your content? Fetching is exactly like what you think. It doesn't use a full web browser, but it fetches the content of the page. First step is if your website blocks the AI model from fetching it, then you're out automatically. That's the end of that. The most couple of two things that are really, really important at these stage, actually three things. First is when AI fetches the content in real time, when ChatGPT, when Claude, this is different than traditional search. They only fetch the text content of the page. They do not render JavaScript. For those of you who are familiar with that, some content is dynamically loaded. Sometimes entire sites, their full content is loaded through JavaScript. So it's kind of like a shell that when the browser shows up, all the text kind of floats in. Sometimes individual pieces are loaded via JavaScript, like reviews. A lot of times, if you use like a widget on your website to say reviews, you might have 10,000 fantastic Google reviews in a widget. AI will never see them if they are not statically loaded on the page. So, what content is available on the page definitely depends on whether or not it's loaded with JavaScript. We have a tool that audits this for you and shows you the difference between how, in this case, ChatGPT looks at your page versus how a human would see it, highlights any differences there so you can fix the problems. There are other companies that do this as well. You can also just turn off JavaScript in your browser and browse your website and see the exact same thing. So don't load content with JavaScript. Another thing to worry about is AI, like most of us, TLDRs you. Roughly the first 2,000 words are all it's roughly going to get. That's an approximation. It's not a hard number, but the lower your key content is in the page, the less likely it is to be pulled out by AI. AI also doesn't wait, right? You've been on the other side of a ChatGPT or Claude conversation. The last thing you want is AI sitting there like, oh, I was trying to get this page and it took 20 seconds to load. So that means that human's waiting 20 seconds. Most AIs have a hard fail at about 2 seconds. If it can't get your entire page within 2 seconds, it drops it and moves on. It won't pick part of it. So this is something also you have to audit. There are lots of tools that do this. We have one, but even Lighthouse in Google can tell you an approximation of how fast your content loads. Second piece here is, can the content be extracted into chunks? AI reads in blocks. So similar to like a scan here, it will take like one chunk and then a second chunk and all that down the way. It typically uses headings, image boundaries, anything else to kind of understand how the page is formatted. So something you want to think about is don't just have like a long block of singular text. Make it in extractable chunks, roughly 150 to 200 words in between a heading or a list or something like that. This one's the most complex. This is where it gets a little bit technical. Uh, AI, specifically, we're looking at the ChatGPT pipeline here. Most of them use a variation on this, uses what's called a semantic rerank. So it will take the content, and typically at this stage, it has fetched 6, 7, potentially 30 pages, depending on how deep its thinking mode is, potentially from multiple sources. We have observed ChatGPT to use sometimes its own internal search engine, sometimes it uses Bing, sometimes it uses Google search results. But what it's going to do at this stage is it's going to combine those, because if you have search results from one system and search results from a second system, how do you decide between them which one is a better fit? Because they're ranked independently. So this is a process that actually takes all of those, re-ranks them in one big list. So you might have a internal search result, a Bing search result being number one, Google be lower. This is all done in one step here. This is how it understands like what is the potentially the best content for this from the results that I have since selected in the previous step. Um, Semantics side of this as well. So again, we looked at that best PR firms in Worcester. So you want your content to be a good answer to the user's question. This is why we see FAQs and all these things being techniques to grow AI citations. It is a question and answer platform. So having an entity dense uh, extractable chunk in this that answers the question, no brand speak, no superfluous queries that can't be claims that can't be substantiated, like best and things like that. All of those things, metaphors, clever headlines. Again, I used to work in marketing. We do this all the time. Humans totally understand the concept when you give them like a clever tagline. AI not quite as clever with that stuff. So be direct, and be relevant to the query. Next thing, once it's picked, again, as few as one, sometimes as many as a dozen, maybe more pages. It's now going to read the entire page and look for specific passages within it that represent good specific sources, not the page, but the actual piece of the page. It's going to pull all those things together. It's going to understand where the source is coming from. It's going to understand how closely that maps to the actual question that was asked or the request that was made by the user. And it's going to pick a handful of finalists, individual pages. And the next page is it's going to try and synthesize all of the pages that it pulled. Can I take one piece of it out that's self-contained? Does it answer the question? Is it dense with relevant entities? Does it have facts, figures, claims that can be substantiated? Does it combine with other things that it's already pulled? It will pull those together. You have probably seen this as well. It very often will rewrite, never just directly like pull paragraphs from this. It will often rewrite them or combine them with other things. You can sometimes see chunks that it pulls in wholesale. So another thing to think about here is how your your writing level. How complex is it? Is it written too simply? Is it written too complexly? We have seen there's a metric called Flesch-Kincaid score that gives you kind of an approximate grade level for reading. We have seen AI do less rewriting of content that is anywhere from roughly grade 9 to about grade 11. So if you want to score your content to see how much it's likely to be rewritten, that's a good kind of benchmark for it. So that was how the technical side of how it's cited. Now let's talk a little bit about sources. So we think about in PR, we think about tier one publications, New York Times, CNN, like the ones that everybody knows. Those are huge audiences. huge readership, even online, huge viewership, huge subscriber base. These are have typically and traditionally been goals for PR placements. Getting your client featured in one of those publications was a champagne moment. In AI, a little bit different. So yeah, very different. Tier one works great for humans. Um, we did a study a little while ago and we looked at the top 51 online publications in the US by readership. And we found that 30 of them were blocking AI from using their content. So there is a correlation between the organic distribution to humans and whether they're blocking AI. More distribution means more likely to block from AI. AI, so based on that, like shut out of some of these major publications, AI frequently grabs trade, regional, niche publications, loves directories, loves reviews. We've seen it cite social sources, Reddit, LinkedIn, seen it cite video. All of these are already sources that it knows. Again, that's not to say that there might be a tier one that can get cited because it doesn't, not universal to block there. But the best way to know what sources are going to be cited for a particular type of prompt for your client, your brand, whatever that is to test it and then grab the citation sources because those are likely the pool of citation sources for a particular type of prompt are going to be consistent run to run. It doesn't decide, one day to like, oh, now I'm going to go and search this other thing. Like they are pretty consistent over time. So once you know what those are, those become your PR outreach. This is a tool that we offer for free on our website. You put in a domain name and it tells you what AI is blocking it. So Wall Street Journal, wildcard blocks, like they license their content to individual models on a paid basis. Nothing you get on Wall Street Journal can be cited in AI outside of those licensing deals. Same thing with New York Times. Blocks ChatGPT, blocks Claude, blocks all of the content from model trainers. Gemini can cite from it, as can Perplexity and things like that. I do believe that there's a licensing deal with ChatGPT, so even though it's blocked at the platform level, they have a special pipeline where ChatGPT can actually use their content again on a paid model. Forbes is interesting, very, very popular, certainly in tech circles and things like that. Any platform can cite its content, but it blocks model trainers from using its content to inform new versions of the platform. This isn't don't go to the New York Times replacements. Like none of these things are a yes or no, like we should or should not pursue coverage in these platforms, but you should know what their policy is because that's going to inform how impactful that content is going to be to an AI audience. So we talked about this earlier. How do you know what to look for? Audit what it already cites. So I did a little, again, this is my actual results here for best PR firms in Worcester, Mass. You can see like the result there, three different things. The cited in line is when it puts a little tag with a link directly after a block of text. So what it's telling you here is this particular block of text is coming from its understanding of that specific page. At the very bottom, it lists all of the sources it evaluated. In some cases, there will be sources it evaluated and did not cite in line. That's an important distinction. That is another kind of sub-gate within all of this is, did it use that source to actually influence a specific thing, or did it review it as a general background for the category, or did it review it, include some information, and then not include a link, which does happen too. Viewing all sources, you can see that will open up that little panel that I'm showing you on the side. Those are all the sources that it evaluated. Both of these things are valid to know. When we think about a goal being, hey, I want click-throughs, I want this particular piece of information in the response to be interesting enough to the user that they actually click through to the source. You want the inline citations. That should be your goal when we think about content being cited. This is how our platform distinguishes things are evaluated sources versus cited inline, so you can understand which one of your placements are actually being cited, not just evaluated. So a little bit on how to structure your earned media for AI. Straightforward here. This is something you want to take a look at. So title addresses a key selling point, then a direct answer, about 200 words max, entity dense, noun, verb, subject. Very, very straightforward. Don't mess around. Don't lead with anything else. Just that's it. Then key takeaways, 4 to 5 sentences that summarize the rest of the content. AI does like to pull both the direct answer and potentially key takeaways. Again, putting them up top means they're far more likely to get picked. So if your actual valuable content is below, you at least get something out there. This can feel a little bit awkward when you're writing in this style. There are some techniques to do it. If you're building web pages, you also want to follow this, not just earn media. And then below those key takeaways and direct answer, sections. Each section has a question or statement that maps ideally to something that somebody would be searching in AI or prompting in AI on the topic, along with a short answer. And we talked about this earlier. AI loves tables, comparisons, FAQs, semi-structured data in the context of a page. We have seen it pull those wholesale and drop them into a response. The more you can use tables, again, comparison data, anything that's kind of structured, the more likely you are to earn a citation. So if you're working this, in our media, so when you think about a placement there, if you're going to get a, your client quoted in a major media, to the best you possibly can, get that quote attributed to both author, company, and a short description. I know that's not always possible. Journalists don't always want to do that. But to the extent that you can tie the author and then the company and whatever their 3 to 4 word description is that they would want to be known for, all of those mentions help build associations in AI models between the company and what it does. You may have key messages that they want to. If you can possibly pull those in there, that's also important. You want those key messages in the as close to the brand mention as possible. Because again, AI doesn't grab the entire page, it will lift a chunk out of it. If the key message is somewhere else, not close to the brand mention, it might pull the brand mention and miss the key message. Obviously, to the extent you can, if you have, editorial privileges on this, you get a chance to look at it before it's reviewed for accuracy. You can do a couple of things. One, make sure that the first two are there. We built a scorer that looks at a page to try and find the best citable content that mentions your brand, tells you how effectively it would be pulled based on those 8 gates that we looked at in ChatGPT. Free use. That is something you can look at. This will have at the end a whole bunch of links, and wherever I publish this in the future, all of these things will be cited. So if you're interested in those kind of things, that will be something you can see in the description. This is the Ahrefs anatomy of a highly citable web page. The visual thing, they've kind of come to the same conclusion that we have, and a bunch of other people are. Same principles. This is kind of just a visual of what a typical page looks like. Answers the question, clear answer from the start, key takeaways, structured tables. I didn't really talk about this before, probably should have. Dates. There are a recency filter in a lot of AI models. It wants content that is relatively recent because some of these things change. Best X or Y problem isn't a static thing forever. New models of products come out all the time, new cars, any kind of that thing. So recency matters when you're publishing content. Make sure it has a clear byline and a date stamp on it. If you update it, update the date stamp. Use only one date on the page. Don't do a like published on, updated on. That matters a lot in Google. Google will often pull the first date. So just put updated on. You don't have to worry about trying to maintain the original publication date on it, just last time you updated it. If a human has reviewed it and is willing to put their name on it, that also helps as well from an authority perspective. So this is a tool that we built, again, free to score, that actually models content against those 8 gates, gives you output. It can actually suggest rewrites as well based on this. Free to use. There'll be a link to this in the show description in case you want to test it out on any of your content. And thank you. My contact is below. And again, you will get a version of this. The description will have all of these links to the things that I've talked about, plus a few extra things that I didn't get a chance to mention, but are also super helpful for this. So hope this is worthwhile.